What's up, y'all? It's your girl Jay Renee with Prison Riot Radio. I hope that you're doing well. This evening, we have Brother T.W. Brock on the phone, okay? We have a lot of information that we are going to cover, but this is only part one, okay? We will be back. I say have an open heart and an open mind for all the things that you're going to hear. We all know what America was built on and what it's capable of. So, tonight we will dive into a part of dark history that happened that you may not be aware of. All right. Hey, bro, how you doing?
All is well, my dear sister. All is well.
All right.
And thank you for inviting me on and having me on your show with your audience this evening. Thank you guys for listening and allowing me to share my story. This evening, I want to talk to you about my pop, William Brock. Okay? My pop, William Brock, was a mere 31 years old when he passed away. But he died standing up for the civil rights of other minorities like you and I. Now, most people aren't aware of these facts, but if you'd like to follow along with me for yourself, I challenge you, or I admonish you, I should say, to take a look at the website Justice4, that's FORBROCK.com. Again, that's justiceforbrock.com. Mr. Brock, my dear brothers and sisters, was, and remember that every blue word on this website is a hyperlink. So click on your blue words to go on your details. Okay? Mr. Brock was the most prominent minority executive at the first Volkswagen plant here in the United States, out in New Stanton, Pennsylvania, back in 1977. They actually recruited him. Okay, they sent a limo to his job, took him to dinner, and made him a job offer. They brought him on as an EEOC coordinator, which means his job was to hire and fire. So, because at the time when they brought my father on, the company itself was experiencing some real tumultuous times related to the black community. I mean, racism was ridiculous at the plant. I mean, they out and out called blacks the N-word to their face. They had N-word applications for employment, which you'll actually find on the website. They would hang black dolls from nooses, okay, over their office doors. They would put dead rats and dead snakes in their office drawers. And they did a lot to intimidate minorities at the initial plant here in the United States. So, Volkswagen, and at the time, it was all in the media. It was all over the news. There were newspaper articles. There was TV coverage. I mean, there were marches at the plant gates out in New Stanton, Pennsylvania. I mean, today, if you try to look it up, you probably wouldn't find much on it. I wonder why that is. But if we look up things about Martin Luther King today, we can find those things with ease. We look up things about Medgar Evers today, we can find those things with ease. But why is it that we can't find the things about my father, William Bryant Brock, or William B. Brock? Okay? Back in 1977, Volkswagen sent a limo to my father's job, took him to dinner, and made him a job offer. They brought him on as an EEOC coordinator, which means his job was to hire and fire in the African American, to bring about change against that racism. So my father originally began hiring from the minority community. Okay, and then the company comes to him flat out and says, "Don't worry about them other blacks. We're gonna take good care of you." So they really hired him to be a token, so they could kind of dangle him out in the press. See, look, we hired black folk. Now leave us alone. But you see, my father was a man of integrity. Prior to going to work for them, my father actually worked for the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. Therefore, he knew the employment laws, and I mean, he had hired from the police department, from the fire department, and so there was really, and back in those days, they didn't have at-will states, if you will. You had to have a paper trail to fire someone. Okay, so then the company calls themselves promoting my father to a position they thought he couldn't handle, so they could legally terminate him. So when he was just 27. Okay, the company promoted him to vehicle shipping coordinator, which means his new job was to map out the cheapest route to get the product from the plant to every dealer in the United States. Okay, and that's including Hawaii. I guess they figured a 27-year-old black man in those times what's he going to do? I mean, so they could he doesn't know what he's doing, and we could terminate him with ease. Well, you see, if they had done their homework prior to promoting my father, they would have discovered that William B. Brock was a genius. This man graduated from high school, was 16 years old, with a 4.0 GPA. He went to college on a full academic scholarship, graduated from college at 21 with a 4.0 GPA. He was a third-degree black belt in 3 different forms of martial arts. He had his own business at 23. And when he was in college, get this, ladies and gentlemen, he actually taught probability and statistics as a hobby. And anyone who's actually taken those subjects knows that those are 2 very difficult subjects. It's been my understanding that most professors struggle teaching those subjects. Well, my father taught it as a hobby. So when they promoted him to vehicle shipping coordinator, again, in an effort to get rid of him, they actually placed him in his element. He actually ended up saving the company several $1 million a month. That got him featured in the Wall Street Journal, the Boston Globe, the New York Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer, Jet, Ebony, and every other major magazine you could think of at the time. So the Germans overseas loved my father. They actually gave him a private jet to fly him back and forth to Germany, a company car, and 3 secretaries when he was only 27 years old. And guess what? There's proof of that. If you go to the website, there's a blue link that says recruited. I admonish you, take a look at that recruited link and look at it for yourself. Okay. But now, like I said, the Germans at the plant, they hated my father because everything they did backfired in their face. But the Germans overseas, they loved him. He actually wrote speeches for the vice president of the company. Okay, James Short at the time. And the blacks at that point decided to form a black caucus and make my father president and spokesperson because obviously he was doing really well with the company and he really cared about our people on a holistic level, So yeah, I can remember days where my aunt, my dad's sister, told me that blacks, some of the things they dealt with at the plant, because I was way too young and wasn't quite aware of these types of things at that point in my life. But my aunt told me when I got a little older that there were times when blacks would come to my father's office and tell my father the things that they were dealing with. And my father would go to plant management and they'd say, Bill, I ain't got time for this mess. And my father would pull up a chair and grab a magazine. And when it was time to go home and the guy was ready to walk out the door, my father, you got time now? Because he really fought for and really stood with and for the people. Okay, so when the other blacks created the caucus, they made my father president and spokesperson for the Black Caucus. So while he's negotiating for the company to make concessions for other minorities at the plant, things like better positions, more money, less discrimination, the company would agree to certain terms behind closed doors, but then when my father would call a general meeting with the rest of the caucus members, they would deny those terms. We didn't say that. That's not true. And it's been my unfortunate experience, and this is ugly, but it's true. It's been my unfortunate experience that minorities have a hard time sticking together. So I'd like to change that if we may. But the other blacks call my father a sellout and everything else. But my thing is, if he were a sellout, I've got just one question for you. Only one. How in the world did you get hired at a company that wasn't hiring black folk in the first place? But, I don't know. We just don't think sometimes. So the other blacks went behind my father's back and filed a $70 million class action discrimination lawsuit against the company. Well, if you want to see motive, please, on the website, if you'll go to if you're looking at it from a cell phone, if you go to the top of it.
Not to interrupt you, brother, but tell them the website again, just in case they just honed in.
Missed it. Okay. All right. Well, just in case you can get you just now honing in, the website is www.justice4, which is FORBROCK.com. JusticeForBrock.com. And remember, every blue word on this website is a hyperlink. So you click on the blue words to go into your details. So far, we've already talked about one of the blue words. My favorite is the one that says recruited. It's on the homepage. Okay, but also on the homepage, there's the blue link that says abuse by VW. There's the if you go to the if you want motive for what happened to my father, then I admonish you again go to on if you're looking at it from a phone, you want to go to those three little lines in the upper right hand corner, and you get a drop down that says the facts. Go to the facts so that you can view the motive for yourself. Okay, I want you to go to the website. Again, it's www.justiceforbrock. That's www.justiceforbrock.com. And then if you're on the phone, if you're on a cell phone, you want to look in the upper right hand corner. You see those three lines, look like a little hamburger sandwich. Click on that. You're going to get a drop down. When you get the drop down, you want to click on the facts page. You might get another drop down from that. Don't click on the second drop down. Let it load up the facts page. Then once you're on the facts page, you want to scroll down a little bit till you see the blue link that says impact unfavorably. That impact unfavorably, once you open it up, you'll see it's a letter on company letterhead that my father had written about 4 months prior to his death to the president of Volkswagen. And if you'll scroll down to the second page, the very last paragraph on that page, you're going to see motive for my father's murder. It talks about, I don't have it up before me at the moment. If you'll bear with me, I'll pull it up so that I will make sure I'm quoting it verbatim. So if we have someone listening to us from the plant, they can't dispute it. So the facts page, and then we go down to impact unfavorably in blue. Now, see, when my father died, his office was broken into, and they stole his briefcase. What they weren't aware of is that because threats were being made on his life, he made copies of everything and sent them to different members of the family. So, he was able to protect himself because later on, after his death, we were able to go back and look and say, wait a minute, this don't look right. But that letter was a letter that he had written to the president of Volkswagen, and he basically says that we want to take Volkswagen to court, not only for a lawsuit for Volkswagen's millions, but for the concession that it be required to cease and desist from building and or selling cars in the United States of America and be barred from ever doing so again as long as either shall exist. Well, my dear brothers and sisters, I don't know if many of you know, but Volkswagen owns Audi, Porsche, Lamborghini, Bentley, Bugatti. That's a $19.5 million automobile for one car. For one car.
Right.
So get this, 5 cars, that would have been your $70 million. So it wasn't the $70 million that he was killed for. Okay? He was killed because he had enough information to put VW out of business in the U.S. That's a lot. I understand. That would have cost the company trillions of dollars. I mean, potentially, trillions? I don't think that anyone wants to risk that. So court documents indicated that my father, when the other blacks joined that lawsuit, Volkswagen tried to blackmail my father with knowingly false information in an effort to convince him to coerce others to back out of the lawsuit. That move actually had the opposite effect. It pissed him off, and he joined the lawsuit with the other blacks. And just a few hours after joining that lawsuit, he was seen out with other brothers and sisters, and he told them, "Hey, I'll see you at the meeting on Monday." On that very day, he had told friends that he was selling his Audi because he just bought a Porsche. Right. And get this, 10 days prior to his death, right, he told a friend of his he told the family, 10 days prior to his death, he told the family that he had just been approved for a $9 million venture. Okay? Now, let me ask you, now get this, the $9 million was to purchase a Hilton hotel. He was going to purchase a Hilton hotel, and, he was excited. So tell me this: if you yourself think about this, we're just about to get $9 million for a hotel, and then you were pressed by the family and told by the family you need to leave now because of the death threats on your life. And then you told the family, I can't do that. I've got people counting on me. Does it sound like someone's going to go home and eat a bullet to you?
No.
And then get this, brothers and sisters. My father was left-handed. The New York Times talks about he committed suicide, but the New York Times does not talk about the fact, it doesn't even mention the fact that my father was left-handed. Wow. He was shot in the back of the right side of his head hours after joining a $70 million class action discrimination lawsuit where he himself had the bulk of the damaging information against the company.
Right.
When he died, so did that lawsuit. Does that sound like suicide to you?
No.
And people always tell me, well, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. I don't want vengeance. I want my father's death certificate to reflect homicide instead of suicide.
Right. You're in the pursuit of truth.
Exactly. And, if you look on the website, on the homepage, you'll see my favorite link is the one that says recruited, because it talks about how my father was recruited by Volkswagen. He didn't go to them for employment. They recruited him. But it's also my favorite because court documents indicated that the gentleman that letter was written to from my father, court documents indicated after my father's death, that gentleman actually relocated to Shelby, Michigan. I tracked him down, and I called his home one day. And his wife says, "Oh, Joe, honey, get the phone." So Joe gets on the phone. I said, "Joe Tadalski?" He said, "Yep." I said, "You ever work for Volkswagen out in New Stanton, Pennsylvania?" He's all excited. "Oh, yeah, I worked out there." I said, "Great. Just the guy I wanted to talk to him. Doing some research into my old man's death. And I wanted to ask you a couple of real quick questions. My dear brothers and sisters, you would have thought this guy saw a ghost. I didn't know your father." I said, "Respectfully, sir, I didn't give you his name."
Right.
His name was William Brock. I didn't know him. I said, "I find that difficult to believe, considering I've got several letters my father had written to you, several you had written back to him. I know you sat 3 desks away from him for 3 years. He was the only black man in the office, and you guys had several run-ins."
Right.
And then he says to me, get this, I didn't kill him. If he committed suicide, why was that statement even mentioned?
Right.
So there's a lot of people who know a lot more about my father's murder and cover-up. I mean, I've gone to the FBI. If you look on the website on the Our Supporter page, you'll see the several people who have written letters to Congress to get the U.S. Justice Department involved and in the effort to expose my father's murder and cover-up. And I've had Congress members tell me, "Hey, I'm going to do something about this," but nothing was done.
Right. And
I have friends. I've gone to the FBI. I have friends at the NSA. You guys, for those of you who don't know who they are, if they're part of Alphabet City, we call them. The guys, the National Security Agency. Mm-hmm. And when I asked them, why is it that our government isn't motivated to expose this cover-up? I've been told flat out, because you don't have enough people talking about it. Understand that every time Volkswagen makes a sale in the United States, our government gets tax money from it. Yeah. So you don't have enough people talking about it. And I was told flat out from associates, hey, if you work at the NSA, if you get more people talking about it, then our government will be forced to reopen this case. So I'm appealing to you, my listeners. Please, post this website on your page. Prepare yourselves to get involved by eventually we're going to be selling T-shirts and hats and things like that, and I'd like you to be a part of it. Help me spread the word. Help me get it out there that this alleged suicide is really a homicide in disguise.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hearing me out.
For sure.
And I look.
I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead. I'll be
I look
overzealous.
forward to speaking with you again.
All
And
right.
oh, by the way, if you have any questions at all, please post them here on the podcast, and I'll be sure to address them.
All right. Let the people know how they can reach out and support you in a real way.
In a real way, if you look on the website, there's a GoFundMe link, so that we can put more T-shirts out. We can put more flyers out. We can invest in airtime. We can support a radio show that I'm going to be doing in the very near future. And then if you want to reach me directly, feel free to reach me at 833-DO-IT. That's DOIT 4 Pop. Come on, let's work together, my brothers and sisters. Let's do it for Pop and get involved.
For sure, bro. Like I said, this is part 1. We definitely going to double back because we have much more to talk about. I appreciate you, standing up for your father, being a voice for him. And I definitely support your efforts.
And get this, ladies and gentlemen. My father was a mere 31 when he died. Can you imagine if he had lived today? I never forget. One day I was in a five and dime store in Washington County, Pennsylvania. One day, and this police officer comes in. He's looking at me. I mean, like staring me down. And I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? So I asked, why are you looking at me? Why are you, what did I do to you? And he said, well, you look like. And I said, Bill Brock. He said, yes. He said, man, I told him, I said, that was my father. He said, man, your father didn't kill himself. He hired me. He was amazing.
That part. And we're going to leave the people with that. Make sure y'all check out the website. Everything is lined up for y'all to see. Believe y'all common sense in your eyes. And remember what you know about America. They will do you wrong and cover it up. It's J. Renee with Prison Riot Radio. Peace.